Today's topic will be talking about global warming. Okay, we're gonna explain the greenhouse effect and thermal pollution. We are gonna suggest ways to reduce global warming as well. So next slide. Yeah, I know. I'm upside down. Okay, what
So
is global
special.
warming? A gradual increase in the overall temperature of the Earth's atmosphere, generally attributed to the greenhouse effect caused by increased levels of carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbons, and other pollutants. Next slide. Okay, energy of molecules in the atmosphere is in three forms. One of them is translational kinetic energy due to movement of air molecules through space. What? Second one is rotational kinetic energy due to the spinning of air molecules. The last is vibrational energy due to the vibration of atom in molecules. Okay, next slide.
Okay. Collision between molecules due to heat agitations are called thermal collision. This thermal collision allows heat energy to be distributed amongst air molecules into the atmosphere. Next. Greenhouse effect, a neutral phenomenon which help regulate the Earth's long-term average temperature. Okay, next.
There are many causes of global warming. Humans' activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and clearing of forests have greatly intensified the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse gases are emitted through motor vehicles, land clearance, and the production and consumption of fruits, fuels, and manufactured goods, materials, woods, roads, buildings, and services. Carbon footprint is defined as the total set of greenhouse gas GHG emissions caused by an organization, event, product, or person. Teacher, next slide. Thermal pollution is also the cause of causes global warming. Thermal pollution is a sudden increase or decrease in temperature of a natural body of water, which may be ocean, lake, river, or pond by human influence. This normally occurs when a plant or facility takes in water from a natural resource and puts it back with an altered temperature. Okay.
Muted.
Okay, sure. So now I'm going to explain the effects of global warming. First of all, it can change in climate in many parts of the world. Secondly, agriculture products and world food supplies are affected. Third, partial melting of polar ice caps. And lastly, is the rising sea level causing flooding in low-lying regions. And the last slide. These are the many ways to reduce global warming, which is to reduce, reuse, and recycle, the 3 Rs. And next is to use less heat and air conditioning. Next is drive less and drive smart, which is carpooling and so on. Next is to buy energy efficient products and use renewable energy sources, and always like switch off your switches if you're not using it. You can even plant a tree and educate others to conserve. That's all. It's a very short topic, so don't expect much.
True, sir. This topic is so short.
Okay, now any question from your friend?
So I believe there's no questions. Everyone knows what's global warming.
Any question?
Ken, don't.
Sir, I'm supporting flat Earth. Can someone fight with me?
Sir, please mute him.
So I would like to call upon Gerald to explain about
Explain.
flat Earth.
Since he say he knows. Nonsense. Keep rotating my camera view there.
Any question, Jali? Everyone understood or not? So all these things are happen over here. Do you understood? I mean, energy of molecules in
Yes.
three form.
I understand some parts now
Increase in temperature because of
because of pollutants. Generally pollutants.
Mira.
Yeah, actually, this is like a very short topic. Nothing much to talk about.
Book also got 2 pages only, sir. This one I combined 2 books, sir.
2 books.
Yeah, I take from the Oxford and the Saspadi one.
Okay lah. Actually,
So this all the stuff learned in like from 5 already, right?
yeah, it's a
Just bring back up only.
From 3 years ago already actually.
Yeah, that's why.
okay. Actually, what happened is we have a layer of this CFC, a layer of CFC, carbon dioxide, a layer of all these things. How to draw this? How to draw? Wait. Okay, we have, let's say this is the Earth. Okay, and then because of the CFC, carbon dioxide, other pollutants, they made up a layer. They made a layer on top of the Earth, like this. Right. So this is layer of CFC, carbon dioxide, and all the pollutants. Okay. So, what happened is, originally there will be sun that's radiating the heat, and then what happened is the sun who radiates the heat, the sun, I mean the radiation from the sun, that is the light, came out here, but it doesn't go out because of the pollutants. So it will be bounced back to the earth. It should be can be escaped actually. Some can be can be escaped from the earth, but it cannot escape because it bounced back by all these pollutants. So will be remain over here inside the atmosphere of the earth. So this is what we call as greenhouse effect.
So can I ask a stupid question, listen?
Hmm?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if like the pollutants like cover the earth, right, which doesn't allow the sun the sunlight energy to like bounce back off to the space, right? Then how does the energy of the sun like reach the earth if it's like blocked by pollutants in the first place?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, some will be blocked. Okay, some will block, but some are not. But the thing is, this thing is the one. Of course, you see that why didn't bounce back right this way, right?
Yeah.
Right. Some will be filtered out actually by the pollutants, bounce back. But because most of it, because the sun has too much of energy, some will bounce back. Maybe the 10% or 5% will bounce back. But because it was reflected, when reflected, when reflected from the surface, then the thing it will be like a trap in the Earth's atmosphere. Maybe some of it trapped, some are not. I think I don't have the numbers, but this is the ideal concept of the greenhouse. It was trapped because of the pollutants are staying on the layer of the Earth atmosphere. So the more you put CFC and more we put side, the layer will be, this layer will be much more thicker and thicker. So the energy that come from the sunlight cannot be escaped. So that's why we have global warming. Do you know what's a greenhouse effect? We call it greenhouse effect. Do you know why we have a greenhouse? Actually, in a cold climate country, we have a greenhouse. Greenhouse, where they put a lot of vegetation inside their house, inside this greenhouse. You know why
Yes,
they
sir.
put? This is a greenhouse. Remember?
To trap the sun's warmth.
You put a you make a house. You make a house maybe with a wall of plastic and a transparent plastic. And then you put a this is on the when you have a cold climate. Those countries we have cold climate, you have put a house and they put a lot of vegetation. You put a salad and everything. So this house we call it greenhouse. Why did it name as greenhouse? Because it's also trap the heat. So when heat of the sun came up, pass through the layer of the I mean the plastic of the house, it came out inside, but it cannot goes out. So the heat will be remain in the house. So the temperature inside the house will be hotter than outside. One of the
How will
concept
they
of the house.
achieve that answer?
Because
How,
it will be trapping all the energies, the radiation of the
yeah, how
light.
do they trap the energy
Because
inside the greenhouse?
how they trap?
Yeah.
Because the plastic does not allow a certain degree of refraction does not allow the rays to go out. I mean, it will heat up all inside of this here. It doesn't
So
go
it's
out.
a plastic.
The plastic.
Okay.
Okay. This is what I said before. It was shielded by plastic ice. What call that? Transparent plastic. So everything over here was covered by uh, by transparent plastic. So this is the same concept as greenhouse. Actually, it was not supposed to build in Malaysia because it's the cold, hot climate, right? But for those country which have a cold climate, they use this one to trap the heat. So those vegetation who are suitable for hot climate, not hot as us, like 20 or 23 Celsius, this vegetation need that kind of environment to live. They have to use a greenhouse to make it. Okay, so there's one more concept of greenhouse. Ken? Ken there? Ken? Are you there?
Yeah.
There was a question in STPM. Let's say this is your Earth, and it was this is
I
your
suck
Earth.
in geophysics.
No. This is only a basic physics, and this is a layer of greenhouse. I mean the pollutants, and then we have a sun over here. Radiates the wavelength, right? So which kind of wavelength? What kind of wavelength that cannot penetrate this layer? I mean the layer of the greenhouse layer. The longer wavelength or the shorter wavelength? There was a STPM asking which kind of what kind of wavelength that cannot penetrate through the
Infrared wavelength.
Infra?
Short wavelength, right?
What kind of wavelength cannot penetrate back?
Infra wavelength.
Infra?
Wavelength.
Infra wavelength. So is infra short wavelength or we call it long wavelength?
Infra is wavelength is longer.
Long wavelength, right?
Yeah,
So infra can penetrate or cannot penetrate?
cannot.
Cannot. Meanwhile, the shorter wavelength can penetrate.
Yeah.
So you are correct. So actually, if the question asks you what kind of wavelength can penetrate back, infra you cannot penetrate back. So infra will be staying inside, or the trap will be trapped by infrared. Meanwhile, those who have a lot shorter wavelength will be easier to escape back to the atmosphere, out to the space. This is due to the penetration of a shorter wavelength and long wavelength. So the analogy is if you have two kinds of wavelength for your cellular data. Remember, your cellular data means that your phone. If you inside a building, that 5 gigahertz, is harder to penetrate through the building. If you less than that, like the 700 megahertz, it's easier to penetrate into the building. That's how the penetration the lambda, the wavelength, which kind of wavelength can penetrate to a building, and which kind of lambda, the wavelength that can penetrate and cannot penetrate to the building. Understand that? If you check your router, there are two sides, right? You have 5 GHz and 2.4 GHz. If you check your router, you can what you call you can use either 2.4 GHz as a router frequency to your mobile phone, Wi-Fi, 2.5 GHz, or you can use 5 GHz. 5 GHz you can have higher speed of it, because it means that in one time there will be much more wave coming up to you in one second rather than 2.4 GHz. But 5 GHz, the penetration of the wave is shorter. It's not as good as 2.4. It means that if you are in the room, let's say very far from the router, you cannot have a same signal as 2.4 GHz. That's the question I hear.
And actually, they got one more application for the wavelength. They use the reflection of the wavelength to transmit the information, because some wavelength they cannot penetrate through the atmosphere. So, but they can happen the reflection of the wavelength. So, like the long-term communication between overseas country, they use the reflection of wavelength to transmit the information.
Okay. For telecommunication, correct. Okay. So that's it. Actually, it's hard to find any question in CPM about about a greenhouse effect. Actually, they're ready to pick the conduction or convection.
Correct.
Yes, Tony. Tony.
So I thought the waves, right, can get to our home because they diffract.
They
penetrate through the wall one.
No, some wave can penetrate the wall. Some wave cannot. Of course, the diffraction will help. If you behind the wall, of course it will be diffraction towards you. But some wave can pass through the wall. Some cannot. Let's say you close all the doors and your router is outside of the room. Of course, you still got the reception, right, from the router, the Wi-Fi. This is not because of the reflection, it's because the wave is penetrating the wall.
I see.
Any more question? Actually, greenhouse effect 2 is a, it's a very small thing inside the the heat transfer. Okay, so actually what happened now is we already finish up all the syllabus in SEM 1. Okay, so cheer up, everyone has finished everything. So now is the time for doing all the drilling SEM 1 question. Okay, so supposedly I will post a more paper, like say a past year paper or model paper. Okay, and you do by yourself. Okay, you do by yourself, and then maybe in 1 or 3 days I give you days to try yourself, and then 1 or 3 days I make a online lesson, and then we discuss about the answer. Okay, I think that's a better way. So at that moment you can ask me any question. Everyone agree?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
Sure.
so congratulations, you have finished up all the SEM 1 syllabus. Okay, how about chemistry and PA and when have you completed all the syllabus? I mean other subject?
No, sir.
Not yet. Is it not yet? Okay. So see you tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be class or not? No, right? No class
No,
tomorrow.
tomorrow we do.
Don't have, sir.
So Thursday I giving you one set of question, physics question, and then next week we discuss. Okay, I give you around 3 or 4 days to do that question, and we discuss in the online lesson.
Alright, finally your camera back.
Okay, and now you're living you suddenly return back to the earth, right? Just now you were in Mars.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so see you again. Bye bye.
Okay, sir.
Bye.
Bye.